Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to our event this morning. My name is Rick Graham. I'm the Director of Public Services for Salt Lake City. Many of you joined us about 2 years ago in 2010 when we held the groundbreaking for the construction of the Regional Athletic Complex. Construction work began in early 2011 and ran for about 6 months, and then was stopped while the city was managing several series of lawsuits that stalled the project. There was a favorable determination by the Utah Supreme Court in late 2012 that allowed the project to move forward. So we're pleased to announce as part of this event today that the project is moving forward. Also, since that time, the Salt Lake City Council has authorized and allowed for the sale of the general obligation bonds that were voted and approved by the Salt Lake City residents back in 2003. And also since that time, Real Salt Lake, who is with us today, has reviewed and recommitted its generous contribution to this project that allows us to move forward. So we're here today to welcome you, to celebrate the fact that the bonds have been sold and that we can proceed with construction. Construction will restart later this summer, and we hope to be in full construction by late fall. That construction will run through next year, and we hope that the next time we are all here together will be in the summer of 2015, where we will have 16 soccer fields and other support facilities developed and ready to play by hopefully these kids and many more kids that live in the Salt Lake City area. In terms of perspective, as you look behind me, everything that you see in that lovely shade of green, even though it is weeds, will be the soccer complex. And as far down as the houses and to the east as far as the trees will be this project, and it will be a field of green grass and other support facilities that will serve the kids and the adults in Salt Lake City for many, many years to come. So we're pleased to make that announcement today, and we're pleased to have many people here as part of the team that has helped get us to this point. Like soccer and lacrosse and football and rugby that will be played here, we have not made it to this point without having a very, very strong team effort. And so I would like to recognize for you today some of the team members that have played a very important part in getting us here today. Standing on either side of me and facing you are the following. Mayor Ralph Becker, the mayor of Salt Lake City. Council member Carlton Christensen, representing District 1, in which this complex resides. Deloy Hansen, owner of Salt Lake Real. Garth Lagerway, general manager for Salt Lake Real. And Bill Manning, president of Salt Lake Real. Kwame Watson-Siriboe, defensive player for Salt Lake Real. Dennis Haslam, local businessman and consultant to Salt Lake City that has been very helpful in helping us develop our operation and business plan. Paul Burke, who is the former president of Utah Youth Soccer Association and currently serves as the chair of the Rules Committee for the U.S. Soccer Federation. And finally, Paul was the lead organizer back in 2003 that got Prop 5 on the general obligation ballot and was able to lead us to this point today. Drew Hyatt, that currently serves as the CEO of Utah Youth Soccer Association. and Mr. Ed Rutan, who is the former Salt Lake City attorney. And in tongue-in-cheek, I have found with this project that I always have to travel with my attorney. So we are glad to have Ed here today and appreciate what he has done for many years in helping us get here. I'd also like to recognize a few others that have been a part of this team and aren't standing here with us today, but are a part of this crowd. Judge Eve Furse, who is also from the former Salt Lake City senior attorney, who has been very helpful in helping us get here. Margaret Plain, who is the new Salt Lake City attorney, and Boyd Ferguson, who is support senior attorney for Salt Lake City. Dave Spatafor. Dave Spatafor, who is a local businessman and also a member of the original Prop 5 committee that worked with Paul and others to get the proposition on the ballot. We have staff people from Salt Lake City and Real Salt Lake. John Nazer, former Salt Lake City engineer. Jeff Snelling, Salt Lake City engineer. Del Cook, former project manager for this project. We have several of our consultants, MGB&A, Jay Bullwinkle and Jesse Bell, who are design consultants, and representatives from Reynolds Construction Company who have been on site in the past and will continue to work on this project. And finally and last, we want to recognize these wonderful soccer players and their coaches who are here today. This field and complex is being built for them. We hope that they enjoy it and use it for many, many years to come, and we want to recognize them. This is their field, this is why it's being built, and we're glad that they're here. I'd like to announce our program today. We'll be privileged to hear from several individuals that are stakeholders in this project. We'll first hear from Mayor Ralph Becker. He'll be followed by Carlton Christensen, who will be followed by Deloy Hansen, followed by Garth Lagerway, and then followed by Drew Hyatt. Turn the time over to Mayor Becker.
Thank you. What a beautiful day. And there is one person who has led the way for Salt Lake City and persevered for more than 10 years, who is just speaking. So let's give a huge thank you to Rick Graham. Rick has always acted with incredible professionalism, has powers of listening that many of us would envy, and has an ability to see through work in a way that really displays the best and the brightest of public service. This is a brilliant day for Salt Lake City and for soccer in our whole region. We have, I think, as is true for many, many endeavors, we've labored through times when we wondered whether or not this day would ever really come. From the time I entered office, I realized that this was an initiative that the voters of Salt Lake City had approved. That is to tax themselves to build this coming magnificent sports complex. But it has not been easy for a whole variety of reasons. But the team of people who have worked on this project reflect the best of what partnerships in this region is all about. They have kept a focus on what the voters approved. They have worked through every dynamic, whether it was acquiring the property, securing the property, whether it was assuring that the Jordan River restoration and mitigation for wetlands, which some of you could see as you came in today with that pond that's new, would be completed in a way that would be exemplary for the Jordan River. Whether it was dealing with, as Rick mentioned, several lawsuits all of which were filed and were carried through in either federal court or state court to the highest level in the land. Whether it was working with our private partners, namely Real Salt Lake, who made a commitment and have lived up to that commitment to make sure that this sports complex is going to serve our youth and is going to serve soccer and serve this whole region in a way that we have never experienced before for soccer. So this is really a very satisfying day, I think, for those of us in Salt Lake City and who believe in both soccer and what it means for our community as a gathering place for our community of all cultures, of all peoples, of all backgrounds, and for just the excitement and love of sport. I think most of us here are fans. And the success of Real Salt Lake, the success of Major League Soccer is an incredible development that has been many, many years, really many decades in the making in this country. And with this sports complex today, and knowing that we're going to be getting this done, we will put Salt Lake City just very far advanced in our ability to serve the youth, who really is what this particular complex is about, but also serve soccer for this whole region. And what you'll be seeing here, I think, will be something that'll make us all very glad for all of the challenges we went through with the successes we're going to receive. So thank you to everyone, really, the whole community, for persevering with us. It only took 10 years. You know, I guess for government, that's pretty good. But we will now have, as Rick described, a timeline in front of us that will allow this facility to really be an example of both how good decisions can be made, but more importantly, what the results will be for all of us. So I'm also pleased now to turn the time over to Council Member Carlton Christensen. Councilmember Christensen has been on the council and represented this area through this entire effort, and I think has been the stalwart on the council for both understanding what this means for the neighborhood and for the community, but also in articulating so well and at times persuading his fellow council members of the value of going forward with the project. So, Council Member, thank you for joining us.
To say I'm excited today is an extreme understatement. This has been really, from a political life standpoint, a full life's journey. When I first came to office in 1998, I sat down early with Rick Graham and we were looking at some other sites, but we knew that the community needed some additional places to play. And the youth coming up were looking at different sports than we traditionally had. And when in 2003 this opportunity came forward, we knew that this was really the solution. I think it's indicative a little bit and certainly speaks to the fact that in congratulating people today, 4 of them were attorneys, which tells us we've gone through a long, hard road. But it's now time for us to, we've met the courts of justice, it's now time for us to get to the courts of play and have the youth have an opportunity to participate and to be involved and to excel at what they do best. And this is the right place, and we've done it in the right way. My thanks especially to Mayor Becker, who, when he came to office in 2007, took a number of public initiatives and brought them to fruition. We recently dedicated the public safety building, the Leonardo, and now this, and it was with his leadership that helped us get here. We've long had a great partner in downtown Salt Lake in the real estate side of things with Doy Hansen. But now as the owner of Real Salt Lake, we have a great partner in this joint effort in helping the youth of not only Salt Lake City, but the greater community find their potential in all kinds of sports and all kinds of opportunities. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Doy Hansen.
After you've had two great politicians speak, I'm a little nervous to speak that well. I'm here today primarily to reaffirm a long-term commitment that was made when the voters of Salt Lake County, Sandy and Salt Lake committed to a $100 million stadium called Rio Tinto. There was a large amount of public support that went into that by the way of bonds that will be paid off over 20 years. And Real Salt Lake made an equal commitment to youth soccer. Real committed to $7.5 million, and it's been a rocky road to get to here. And it's been fun to meet with Mayor Becker and reaffirm that commitment, and today make good on that commitment. And so that's our primary reason today, is to be here to affirm and make good on that commitment, that a third of the funding that will go into this $22 million project will be as a thank you from Real Salt Lake for the public's commitment to help with Rio Tinto being one of the signature soccer stadiums in the United States. Enough so, enough that this year when they were picking where the national team would play in preparation for the World Cup in Brazil in 2014, Rio Tinto was chosen, and the accolades we received for the quality of field, the support of the fans, and the soccer passion of Salt Lake was legendary. So I think we can see that 10 years ago when this process started with dreams, that we're now today standing here on a true field of dreams, that in 2015, 50,000 youth in the Salt Lake or Wasatch Front play soccer. 50,000 youth. How many have enough fields out there today, guys? Are there enough fields? Not even close. So that Salt Lake City has made this commitment to put 16 fields. I don't think we even really understand what that will do for our youth that start with recreational soccer and progress to very elite academy soccer. And that's what later when I introduce Garth, we're going to talk about Real's commitment to bring the very highest level of training here. But first I want to thank, I want to thank Mayor Becker. I have seen in him a tenacious and committed mayor to the good of Salt Lake City. And it's not just here at the soccer fields, it's been in our public service, in the Leonardo. I went the other night to 101 Inventions with 3 of my grandchildren and thought what a remarkable facility the Leonardo is. The police station is a self-sustaining, facility that is just a beauty to look at. And now we have, when I look out here and I look, could you have picked a more beautiful, wonderful place for our youth to come and find purpose in life, commitment to friends, and something to strive for? It's a remarkable vision, and I wanted to take time to give Mayor Becker a hand for that extra work. Thank you. Thanks to Carlton. I like to stand next to him because I look little. And in any other setting, I tend to be a little big. So when I'm next to Carlton, I feel my size. So I love to be next to Carlton. But when I got to Salt Lake and started truly working in downtown Salt Lake in '02, Carlton was the first friend I made. He was instrumental in bringing KUTV downtown. Without his help, you would not have a television station in downtown Salt Lake. Whenever there was a go-to problem, you could go to Carlton and count on his wisdom. He's a remarkable asset for Salt Lake, and he's willing to weather the tide. I like his slow, deliberate method because he gets to the right answer that way. Thank you, Carlton. I'd like to now introduce where the real brain star operation come from. Real Salt Lake at this point is #1 in MLS soccer. We can play with 3 of our guys off playing on the national team and playing on the all-star team, and we still stay #1. But anybody who's at Real Salt Lake knows that the genius for all of that is behind Garth Lagerwaith. He's the one that spends infinite hours looking at the talent, training the talent, and recruiting those that come to Real Salt Lake, and Jason Christ works his magic to put them on a field, and then we succeed as the smallest soccer metropolitan area. We're the biggest in the league right now, so there's a lot for Salt Lake to be proud of. I'd like to introduce Garth Lagerwaite, the general manager of Real Salt Lake.
Hi everybody, I am humbled to be here. Such a cool thing just to look out around us over my shoulder and think about what this means to the future of soccer in this community. To think that this process took 10 years and all the folks that have been involved over that period and all the folks that were involved in just getting it over the finish line here at the very end. Thank you to all of you. I'm sure I neither understand nor appreciate the full scope of all of your efforts, but it is profoundly moving to be here today and to see the progress we're making, not just in Utah, but for our sport. For those of you who might have followed the MLS All-Star game last night, our commissioner said that we would be expanding to 24 teams by the year 2020. That means that from 2005 at the founding of Real Salt Lake, 15 years later, we will have added 14 teams and more than double the size of our league. If you want a story about how quickly our sport is growing and how important it's becoming, I can't give you a better one than that. The core, the foundation of that league growth has been youth development. For those of you who follow us closely, you may know that we signed our first homegrown player. We had our first homegrown player start in a match for us this year, Carlos Salcedo. Because of the thoughtful process that went into the 10-year development here, we had to launch phase 1 of our youth academy in Casa Grande, Arizona 3 years ago. And we very much are excited about launching phase 2 here in Utah. But we also had an important milestone 2 weeks ago. Our under-16 team down there won the national championship. And there were 3 Utah kids. 3 Utah kids that are down there, living there full time, waiting for this academy in Utah to come to fruition and get its start. And they were a big part of that team, and it's a big milestone for us to, in the same year, have won our first national title as part of our youth program, and then to have our first youth player start for RSL. So I think that that's a sign of many good things to come. We couldn't be more excited about what this complex will be. And I think it's critical for the growth of soccer in this country and in this community. And again, we're really grateful for everyone's efforts and everyone's contributions, and we certainly hope. I'm looking around at the faces here, and I'm trying to figure out which one of you is going to be out here and maybe sign an RSL contract one day. So aspire to that. So for those of us on the soccer end of this business, just a very happy day. Thank you all. Thank you to all of you in the community who spend your weekends driving your kids to soccer games all over the state. As a relatively new parent, I'm just starting to appreciate what that involves. And certainly RSL and our youth program and this complex would not have arrived here without the support of every individual citizen in the community. And I think these kind of public-private partnerships to develop community assets are really the way forward for the future and really encouraging for all of us. So thank you all very much. And on behalf of Real Salt Lake, if Mr. Hansen, if you'd like to come back out here, we have a little presentation here. And this is the level of the RSL commitment to the complex here, $7.5 million. And due to the generosity of Mr. Hansen, if we get him right here, we're going to make this official. Congratulations, Salt Lake City. Thank you, everybody.
Get in and get a picture.
Cuddle in here, guys.
Come in, guys.
It's all about you, so let's do it.
All right. Did you get him here, man? There we go.
best forward among you guys? There we go. Confidence. Our new Sabo.
Garth, let's sign him now.
Yeah. Let's get him early while it's a little cheaper.
How about the best keeper in there?
Who's the best keeper? There he is. Our new Ramondo. Right here. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not quite done, but we have one more thing. Thanks, Rich. Thank you, Deloy and RSL. Deloy mentioned the thousands of soccer players in the Salt Lake Valley. Representing them today is Drew Hyatt, who is the CEO of Utah Youth Soccer, and we'll now hear a few remarks from him. And following those remarks, we will conclude this event and invite you to stay and hang around. We have some refreshments, a cake or two to cut. You can't have a soccer event with kids without having some soccer refreshments, so please come and enjoy those. Kwame is around and would love to meet with you and visit with you and sign a few autographs, so please hang around with us. And again, thanks for being here. So, Drew Hyatt.
This year has marked a historic year for soccer in America and locally. Earlier this summer, I joined thousands of soccer folk in Washington, D.C. as we celebrated the 100th anniversary of soccer for U.S. Soccer Federation. It was amazing to see how the sport has grown from its infancy until now. As Garth mentioned, we have the Major League Soccer has taken off and it continues to take off. We saw the U.S. national team in Utah a couple times, and we recently saw them win the Gold Cup and are on their way to qualify for the World Cup in Brazil in 2014. Here at home, we continue to witness greatness with Real Salt Lake as they sit atop the standings in Major League Soccer. The soccer community stands behind Real Salt Lake. You see, as Real Salt Lake becomes more and more entrenched in our community, the sport of soccer becomes more popular. As the sport becomes more popular, more children will try it and they'll play it, not just at age 6s and 7s, but they'll play into their adolescence and into adulthood. The sport of soccer gives children an opportunity to recreate, to learn teamwork, sportsmanship. It offers challenges both physically and mentally. It teaches children valuable lessons in the way that they will ultimately use to better society in their adulthood. As Deloy mentioned earlier, this year marks a great year for Utah Youth Soccer. It's our 35th anniversary. We've reached 50,000 members statewide, from Logan down to St. George, from Tooele over to Vernal, and here in the Salt Lake City area. 50,000 members. Think about that for a second. That's 50,000 kids playing soccer. When Paul Burke was president of Utah Youth Soccer, we had 35,000. That was 10 years ago when this complex was announced. 15,000 kids are now playing soccer in addition to that. Fields are a necessity. We're very happy for this complex. In the near future, the dirt that we stand on will replace with playing fields. Fields that will witness local recreational players' first touch on the ball. They'll see some of the best club players playing league games here, local tournaments, state championships. But ultimately, these fields will host some of the most competitive soccer tournaments in the country, bringing thousands of families into Salt Lake. When thousands of families come into Salt Lake, we'll see millions of dollars of economic development. They'll leave their money here with restaurants, hotels, shopping centers, and with other retailers. Mayor Becker and council members, we thank you for your support of this complex and staff. Thank you. Real Salt Lake and Deloy, we thank you for your contributions. It's been a wonderful thing. Today we stand together. Thank you.